So the first thing I realize about sex is that I want to have it. The second thing I realize about sex is that nobody wants to have it with me. By the time my 13th birthday rolled around, I am a gangly... I am a gangly 5'8" with acne, a unibrow. I'm basically hormonal Gumby. That's what we're working with. I have the kind of hair that doesn't really want to be straight or curly, so I'm kind of walking around with like a halo of frizz all the time. And over my teen years, I watch as my other girlfriends really come into themselves and they figure out how to get boyfriends, and I just continually miss whatever it is that is the elusive quality that makes you attractive to the opposite sex. So fast forward, and suddenly I find myself a sophomore in college. And the extent of my sexual experiences are a few games of spin the bottle and a few authentic trips to first base. It wasn't that my feelings had really changed, it's just that I'd gotten so used to being invisible that I'd learned to just sort of ignore the possibility of potentially hooking up with anyone. Until my intro to philosophy class. In this 300-person lecture hall, I see the most attractive man I have ever laid eyes on. Now, at the Texas university that I went to, most guys kind of either fell into the clean cut and preppy camp or cowboy, but not this guy. He looked like he had a criminal record, but in a really hot way. He wore sleeveless t-shirts of metal bands. He had full sleeve tattoos. He had facial piercings. And even though I never heard him speak, I knew he had the body of a warrior and the soul of a poet. So after a few weeks of just basically staring at this boy, I decided it was time to take our relationship to the next level, which of course meant stalking him on the internet. So I sat down at my desktop computer about 12:30 a.m. one Thursday, and I logged on to this new thing called the Facebook. And some of you guys may remember, but back in the day, you could look people up based on their class schedule. And so I found this large lecture class, and I just started scrolling until I found my handsome prince. And as I'm going through his pictures, I discover that he is even more badass than I had initially anticipated. He's in a band, he plays the drums, he's well-traveled. And as I'm looking through all of these pictures, I'm realizing, like, this is the kind of guy that has probably, like, had sex on a moving motorcycle. You know what I mean? So I'm like, even if I get up the nerve to go talk to him and he talks to me and we go out on a date, I don't know what I'm doing. I've been withering on the vine. I'm completely out of my depth. That's when I saw his screen name, which was System of a Clown. Because he was badass and also funny, am I right? And I decided that it was time to take a bold move. But my screen name was a rendition of a Bible verse, so it wasn't really going for the vibe that I wanted. I decided it was time to create a new, sexy screen name that really captured my essence, so I went with Hot Tits 131. Right. Thank you, thank you. So I message him, and I just say, hey. And he says, hey, what are you up to? Watching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Who is this? We don't know each other, but I'm in your intro to philosophy class. Nothing. I was like, well, this isn't as smooth as I was hoping that would be in this moment. So I say, look, I think you're really cute, and I'd like to meet up with you in the golf course in 30 minutes and make out with you. So then we see the thing that we all dread, where it's like typing, 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 nothing. Typing, 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 nothing. Typing, 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 nothing. And finally he goes, is this a prank? Like, do I know you? Is this a prank? And so I decided it's time to just go all in. And I said, look, the way I see it, you have two options here. In 30 minutes, you can be on a golf course, fooling around with a sorority girl, or you can watch another rerun of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The choice is yours. And then I log off. And let's be clear, I'm like, ready for bed, like there's nothing hot happening. So it's game time. Go to the bathroom, quick shave the legs, get the hair, makeup, throw on a skirt. And I just get in my car and I start heading to the golf course and I have no idea if this guy is going to show up or not. So I'm standing there and I wait about 5 minutes and I see my tattooed prince walking up to me. And he's getting closer and closer. And I'm quickly realizing that I have completely fabricated this man's personality. I know absolutely nothing about him. And he gets about 2 feet away and he starts going, and I didn't want to ruin my whole fantasy. And so I just went, shh. It's best if we don't speak. And so we start kissing, and I drag my heavy metal model, onto the golf course, and about 30 minutes pass, and it is just marvelous. And we are, we've gone past first base, we're rounding second, third is happening. And suddenly this voice in my head says, Rachel, at some point in your life, somebody is going to ask you, how did you lose your virginity? And I'm not sure that you want the answer to be with a complete stranger on a golf course. And so I very abruptly decide that it's time to get out of this situation. And so I kind of roll over and stand up really abruptly. And he's looking kind of like dazed and confused. And I didn't really know, there's not like an Emily Post etiquette for leaving that particular situation. And so I just said the first thing that came to mind, which was, thanks. And I booked it to my car. When I get in my car and I'm driving and I'm just on a high, I'm just like, I pulled it off. He thinks that I'm this sexy person that I'm not. Now I have to avoid him for the rest of the year. And so for the next several weeks, that's what I do. I either skip my class or I show up really late and sit in the back and I don't tell anybody about this thing that has happened. And then finals roll around. And as we all know, if you've been through the final scenario, you're not looking your best at that moment in time. So on this particular day, I was wearing no makeup, I was wearing glasses, I was wearing pajama pants that were covered in Kit Kat bars. And there was no time for hair straightening, so middle school Rachel was just back in full Gumby effect. And that is when I run into him in the hallway. And we make eye contact, and I can kind of see the wheels turning, because he's kind of like, is this person, he's like looking vaguely familiar. And so I panic, and I book it to get away, and I knock over a trash can. And I'm just walking, and I look over my shoulders, and I'm just mortified, because I'm like, I've ruined it. I had this really glimmering, sexy moment, and now the memory is shot. And so I decide that in my embarrassment, I needed to actually have some sympathy from some of my girlfriends. And so I told them what had happened, fully prepared for them to judge me, both for randomly instant messaging this boy on the internet, and then also for the embarrassment that followed after. Because they were all a lot more experienced than I was. And much to my surprise, none of them really fixated on what I considered to be the patheticness of that story. And instead, they were all just really blown away by how ballsy they thought that move was. And as we're talking and they're trying to make me feel better, they start sharing all of their own insecurities and the thing that they worry about. And it was really impactful because, it would be a little while longer before I actually lost my virginity. And I realized in that moment, I might never be the kind of woman that can pull off having sex on a moving motorcycle, but I sure as hell am going to have the confidence of someone who can. Thank you.